Everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Beer with Brian. This is an official panel live stream tied in with the Coffin Comics Sworn Club. Every month they get together with you guys and gals out there, sort of just ruminate on what's doing. Be a chance for you to ask questions, go back and forth if you like. But a lot of what this is about is me simply pontificating about thoughts of the day. And here we are. Late November 2021. And my thoughts, I find, are returning to my original comic book creation, Evil Ernie. Because on November 30th, it will be Evil Ernie's 30th anniversary. What's crazy is that coincides with my own birthday. So it's true. The first comic book that I ever had published, Evil Ernie #1, published by Malibu Graphics, was released on my birthday, November 30th, 1991, 30 years ago. Totally crazy. Time flies and all that good stuff. I've been ruminating a little bit again on Evil Ernie, the creation, and to celebrate Evil Ernie, we are holding an online event called Evil Fest. And leading up to Evil Fest, we have actually recorded a series of live streams to present to you next week. Next Monday, we're going to have the Secret Creation of Evil Ernie Part 1. We're going to stream it live sometime on Monday, the 22nd. And that discusses an element of Evil Ernie's creation, which was ridiculously critical, was absolutely critical, but really people don't know about. And that is, when I created Evil Ernie, he was originally a screenplay, and I was looking to make promotional art to bring the screenplay to life. And I began a collaboration with an artist named Eric Miche. And working with Eric, we actually, from 1988 to past 1991, together we formed the look of Evil Ernie and Smiley. And this live stream is going to show you intimately, with tons of examples, exactly how the look of Evil Ernie that was eventually made part of the comic came to life. And the reason we did that is, Eric is a friend of mine, and he was a significant contributor. But I believe that to some degree, that contribution is lost to time and history. And then on the next one, on Monday, November 29th, we're going to release Part 2 of the secret history of the creation of Evil Ernie. And that will be from the point where I decided to make Evil Ernie a comic book, placing advertisements in Comic Buyer's Guide and Comic Career Newsletter, receiving submissions from over 71 artists, trying out 11 artists, literally giving up, and then finally getting the fateful submission, which included the pencils of Mr. Stephen Hughes. And that initial portion where Stephen came on board and we began prepping Evil Ernie Youth Gone Wild to submit to publishers. So we're going to cover that period of time. But even before that, I think we are also running a article written by Jimmy Calabrese in 2016, which is a written version of the secret history of Evil Ernie, and we are posting it on our social. I think it's worth your time to take a look at, because there's a lot of heretofore unknown information. And Eric is an amazing guy, a dear friend to this day, and a guy I completely admire. Now, one of the main reasons I admire Eric is we like a lot of the same things. And he was a rock and roll guy and living in New York City about 10 years before I got there. And so Eric Miche got to experience New York City between 1969 and the mid 70s for things like, the first appearance of Led Zeppelin in New York City, hanging out with David Bowie, the punk rock scene, all of which I just adore intimately. And as a kid growing up in New Jersey, I really fell in love with New York. And I also fell in love with the punk rock scene as early as the summer of 1977. But I was a kid and I didn't get up there. But Eric was about 10 years older and he was just living it. And he does have the pictures to prove it. And it's always amazing when he posts these pictures, you know, side stage, Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden, hanging out with, you know, Blondie, all this stuff. He was just part of the scene. So it's one of the many reasons why I enjoy Eric. And we get into all that stuff in the panels. So I guess, you know, in my rumination with Ernie and the 30th anniversary of Evil Ernie Youth Gone Wild, my first comic book, my first creation, it brings me back to why did I create this character in the first place? And going back to 1988, that puts me at 88. I was about 26 years old, 27 years old, and I had graduated college, but I almost instantaneously went to work working on films, like big movie sets. And that really took up an amazing amount of time, let me tell you. So if you worked on, I went to work on a movie, one of them, Bright Lights, Big City, for example, or Batteries Not Included. These were movies that were shot in New York. I worked on the movie Big as well. And I was on the movie Batteries Not Included for over a year. And it was inordinately demanding. So I'm talking like 12 to 14 hours a day minimum, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. So nights, mornings, weekends were largely about recovery. And it kind of put my creative life on hold. And as I'm working on these movies and amassing the skill to work on movie sets and to be what's called an assistant director, I sort of felt this creative compulsion also pulling at me. You know, after all, I had a degree in film and storytelling from New York University, and I did have this burning desire. So I decided to make my first story a horror screenplay because I do love and adore horror films. And I was wondering what the heck should I make it about? And ultimately, sometime around seeing Megadeth, sometime in late 87 or early 88 in the New York City area, I was just struck by the ferocity of the thrash metal scene. And look, at the time myself, my hair was literally touching my belt. No joking. I got the pictures to prove it. And I loved this scene because it combined punk rock and heavy metal into this new form. You know, the music was loud and fast and brash, and the subject matter was outrageous, evocative, epic. And I wanted to write a story, a horror story that would encapsulate a lot of those feelings. Now, unbeknownst to me, as a fledgling screenwriter, this Evil Ernie story also wound up having a fair amount of humor in it, sometimes unintentional, just a natural sense of humor to it. There's like a giant romance, as we all know, between Evil Ernie and his beloved Lady Death. And so it actually winds up being a peculiar genre mix, you know, not just straight horror, some comedy, some romance, I was influenced also by what's called splatterpunk, which was a fictional horror movement of very, very savagely violent stories made popular by writers like David J. Scow, Skip Inspector. You could definitely seek out that scene called splatterpunk and find some of the great works by those authors. But inspired by all that melange, even Universal horror movies, this thing Evil Ernie came out. And I'm very lucky to actually get an offer to write and direct the motion picture Evil Ernie from the producers of Hellraiser. Yet, upon reading the fine print, your boy Brian Pulido said, and I was penniless, but I said no, because it would make me sacrifice my rights to Evil Ernie. Well, that turned out kind of colorful because I guess ultimately I did lose the rights to Evil Ernie in 2002, but I guess that's just a whole nother story and another time. But, you know, what I'm spending my time thinking about is that fledgling creation and the spirit of creation, loving that character in his essence, and really loving the spirit of collaboration of working with formatively Eric Maché and then Stephen Hughes on bringing the character to life for people. So we are celebrating that on Evil Fest, and we will have a number of panels beginning Monday, November 22nd, which is next Monday, and Monday, November 29th, which is a week from next Monday. And then I think we're having Evil Fest itself on December 1st to celebrate the 30th annual release of Evil Ernie #1. It's a lot of fun. So we're going to check to see if there's anybody has anything to say, any questions, comments, concerns.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of comments here.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Yeah. Oh, boy, how to do. Let's see. Here's one from Dave. If ever the chance, would you try to get back Evil Ernie, being he is you?
Well, I lost Evil Ernie in a business bankruptcy in August of 2002. It was the consequence of the business bankruptcy, and the character Evil Ernie is now in other hands. So I am no longer interested in seeking that. I guess some of my feelings are varied on that. I was never quite with the new publisher. I was never quite invited to the party to begin with. And then life is complicated, because even if I was invited to the party, I wouldn't have played along. I find it quizzical that I am not credited as the creator of the Chaos Comics universe and all the characters by that publisher. But by the same token, given the output, I don't know if I really want my name on it. So it's sort of complicated. I did lose control of those characters, Purgatory, Chastity, Evil Ernie, and the business bankruptcy. And that's life. Life is complicated, and there's a lot of pain associated with life, as we all know. And so these days, how I relate to those characters and their current destiny and how they're portrayed is they were my children until they weren't. And then someone else raised them. And everybody on Earth literally gets to play with them and do commissions and do variant covers. Everybody except me. And that's just life. Life is really, really colorful. So the answer to that is, it's not something I'm interested in pursuing. I authentically view Chaos Comics died when I got out of that business in August of 2002. And everything that you've seen since then are simply ghosts of characters past. And, that's life, everybody. So any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Let's see. So Kyle, thank you for working with some of the best cover artists in the business and letting Dawn live stream the creation of some of her covers.
Well, I'll tell you, Kyle, it's the pleasure is all mine working with all this great talent. I met Dawn on the road when all of us, a whole generation of us, would go out there and hawk our wares at comic book conventions, getting people to know us or looking to stay relevant or looking simply to stay in the game. That was my experience. I can't speak for the other people, but I met so many wonderful artists on the road who I was so happy to be able to have on our characters' covers. And that certainly foremost among them would be Dawn McTague, Eric Basaluda, Sabine Rich, Jamie Tyndall, Mike Crome. The list goes on, and recently Anna Zucco. The list is truly remarkable. And these are all folks that we really, really met on the road. We really got along. And I feel that having these tremendous cover artists on our characters' books really helps keep them, alive and current and in the moment. So, I do consider Dawn a pal and a creative ally, and I'm a great admirer of her work and her professionalism. And I'm super thankful for her contributions to Coffin Comics, which I consider incalculable.
Let's see. Okay. Quinton, I have a genuine question. Why is it Lady Death Trade Volume 2 is too shorter than the other two trades volumes?
Well, the reason Kyle, the reason that the trades vary in length is we're somewhat attempting to keep each trade complete the story. So I think the first trade might have been, the first trade actually was 3, and I think the second one was 4, and I think the third one was 3, but the volume 3 actually had a longer page count. So I'm trying to break them up from a story perspective. So that's why they'll vary. The next one is volume 4. That'll cover chapter 11, 12, 13, and 14. So that's a longer one. So that's the reason why. It's very hard for us, since our actual stories vary in page count and page length, and when they complete themselves, is different every time. That's why it's not, a regimented 400 pages every time. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And thank you for your question.
Let's see. Here's one from Chris. Was finally able to start helping support Lady Death in the last year and a half. So glad that you have created new characters.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Boy, that was, it was kind of a question. Would people accept new characters from me? That is my lifeblood. I love creating universes of characters and pit them against each other. So I'm so happy they've been embraced. And you see in our last Lady Death campaign, Sacrificial Annihilation, we really went crazy with Tales of the Coffin verse, where we actually expanded even further, saying that beyond our universe, there's infinite universes, and there's characters from those universes interacting, including Captain Scargrave, the superhero team, The Trust, in a whole nother reality, Lady Gunfighter. The list goes on. And thank you for embracing them and allowing us to be able to do that, because, man, that is our lifeblood. It's so much fun. We love all the characters, but it is fun to constantly introduce new characters. So that's why next year in 2022, Coffin Comics is spinning off Lady Satanis into her own storyline, and Chaotica, Lady Death's daughter, begins to get her own series. And our commitment to these characters are for years on end. I've already completed the script for Lady Satanis, and that's going to be a fun one. It's set in New York City, 1977. It is indeed a love letter to the New York I wish I lived in. I got to New York in the fall of 1981, I believe. So a little late, although I had a blast, but I really wanted to be in New York probably between 1973 and 1978 very badly. Also, Chaotica. So that's Lady Death's daughter in the comic, and this will be a really fun story as she goes on a quest to discover the nature of her mystical powers. And those two characters, we intend to actually tell stories in 22, 23, and 24 at the very least. So yeah, thank you for that. And in development, well, we have the Chaotica storyline generally plotted, and then we're going to start executing on the writing in the new year. And I do have the plot for a Mad Mike story. So I actually want to get the entire plot, 96-page plot complete. And I have the first 48, pretty good shape. So I'm doing a lot of world building there. And Mad Mike is one of those characters who writes himself, kind of like Evil Ernie. Tonally different for sure, but there is kind of an over-the-top splatterpunk quality to that one. So thank you for being open to us doing new stories. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
What else we got here? Let's see. Oh, this is from Doug. I rewatched the Lady Death animated movie after seeing clips of it, most recent YouTube videos. Do you have any opinions or stories about it?
I mean, I just got to be honest about my opinion. It was okay. It's tough. I'm a creative human being, and I felt like I had so much to contribute to that one, and I felt frequently rebuffed during the process. There was a contract, and the people on the other side of the contract fulfilled their part, but it was strange because in the beginning there was a romance between us and this company, and they really kind of romanced me into the deal, and I willingly did the deal, and the deal was fine. And as soon as we fulfilled our part of that obligation, which included character designs, and I wrote the story, but then it was as if we were no longer needed or wanted. And so that was a strange experience. I would reach out. There would be panels. I would be at the same convention as the producers. I would not be invited. And I'm really not one to take things lying down. So, I mean, I remember at one time I was at a convention. They announced a whole panel about Lady Death, this animated thing they had in process forever. Didn't have the common courtesy to invite me. So I actually just went right into that panel, and I just took a place right there, and I told everybody what was going on. And, look, it led to a degree of estrangement between us, but I guess ultimately it was screened at San Diego Comic-Con. I was invited. And it really was nice to see with a group of people. There was quite a few people there, and I liked the third act. So it's just exciting to see the character kind of move around and all that stuff. But, you know, for a person who's used to being deeply involved in everything creative, it was peculiar to be kind of shut out of the process. It seemed unnecessary because we also have a marketing arm that could always give people updates. But it was a vexing experience creatively. So on the one hand, I'm happy it occurred. On the other hand, it was a bit bittersweet, to be perfectly honest with you.
Dave, so would you do another animated movie or possibly real life?
Well, of course, I'd always be open to that possibility. And, you know, my core competency is actually publishing comic books and making them. So if and when there is a time for that to occur, these types of things involve radical amounts of money, so it would not be up to myself. It'd be up to partners. And actually, I do have partners in that domain, and we're always looking at the opportunities. And when and if we're open to it. So the obvious answer is, well, sure. And I guess the qualified answer is, it's kind of got to be right for us to do it. So, of course.
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Kenny says, I love how you had Lady Death in New Orleans.
Wow, Kenny. Yeah, that was fun to have Lady Death in New Orleans. It's a great town, obviously. And that storyline, Lady Death given over to her evil side, for those of you really reading this stuff, let me just let you know, there's more to that than meets the eye. And we're really going to see much more about that, Lady Death, evil, New Orleans, in 2023. So keep your eyes peeled. I think that moment in Lady Death history was really pivotal, where she had fully given on to her evil side. However, some allies brought her back. And I should say no more, but stay tuned. In 2023, there might be a re-exploration of those moments in a way you are not expecting.
Let's see. Okay, that was that. Let's go back down here.
Thanks for your questions.
Yeah,
really appreciate those.
Yeah. Let's see.
And welcome. You're here at the Coffin Bar. Every good conference room should have a bar that's shaped like a coffin. Maybe Jimmy Coffin could show you. Yeah, there you go. We have our own bar, and it's shaped like a coffin. And I'm drinking with you at it. Life is good.
Okay, so Miguel, when will we get a Johnny Devlin story and Sparkles the Clown story?
So the Sparkles the Clown story is coming right at you in January. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, one thing I really will point out is that Brandy is authentically afraid of clowns. And I know people like my wife Francisca is authentically afraid of spiders. So knowing that the fear is real, I actually don't play to that too much, because I think clowns are funny, but obviously for her, authentically, she's just afraid of them. So I don't really tease her too much about it. As far as Johnny Devlin, all right, we actually have an entire plot standing by. Let me admit to you, I didn't really feel like I heard enough from Fiend Nation or Sworn Nation that they wanted to have his story. Although I think his story would be very uniquely told and unique tonally. So I haven't really front burnered it. So I probably have to hear a little bit more from folks. Like, I definitely heard a roar about Mad Mike and for sure Lady Satanist. So we kind of go where the roar is, you know? So if I heard more about that, but I will say that we do have a pretty fun, well, fun is the wrong word. The Johnny Devlin story, his origin story, is a straight up body horror story. So doesn't have kind of what I'd call the super heroic theatrics you'd see in our current storylines. It's solemn, grim, and it's body horror. So it's about a young man who has no physical control over his body, and his body is a gateway to another dimension where these demonic creatures come out of him. And he himself is a pawn between all these opposing forces who want to control him. So it is a nice, dark, despairing horror story.
Let's see here. Got time for a couple more here. Let's see.
We have time for a couple more. If any of you guys and gals out there have a question for Beer with Brian, happy to discuss. I'd also like to just tell you that we're announcing the new hellwitch statue from Quarantine Studios, and it's going to be available for pre-order starting tomorrow. And Coffin Collectibles will have an exclusive risque edition. And this risque edition is strictly limited to 100 copies. So this is a topless version of the gorgeous image by Mike Chrome. So stand by. If you're not signed up to our mailing list, please sign up to our mailing list. Go to coffincomics.com, upper right, sign up, because we're offering pre-order starting tomorrow. And with the risque limited to 100 only serial numbered copies, they may go fast. I don't know. So if there are any final questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I just had one here. Let's see. There's so many. Thank you, guys. This is from Jason. Will Lucifer or Satanus make an appearance?
That is such a really good question. So I would like to answer you by saying this, that Lady Death's 30th anniversary is in 2023. And I think the perfect villain for Lady Death and her 30th anniversary would be Satanus. So stay tuned for Coffin Comics 2024. Yeah, 2024 is the 30th anniversary. And I think Satanus would be the right villain for the time. Wouldn't it be fun if Satanus simply had taken over and it's hell on earth, and really it's only up to Lady Death and a few allies? To me, what becomes interesting about that is, of all the characters in the current relationships, who sides on what side? Who's pro-hell? Who's anti-hell? The possibilities are endless. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Satanus might be a great villain for 2024. So how about a final question for Beer with Brian? And I thank everybody in advance.
Let's see. Here's one. I don't know if this got a question. Let's see. From Dave, I'd like to say thank you for all you guys. I've stopped collecting when Chaos died and everything wasn't the same. But then I found you 2 years ago, and that you were back. So 2 years.
Thank you, Dave. I'm happy you're back, man. Yeah, we've learned nothing. It's the same vibe. I don't know about you, Dave. Everything I've learned to love, I loved by the time I was 12 years old, and it's always been the same since. So, you know, Chaos Comics had a certain feel, a certain vibe. The crazy thing is, like, Coffin Comics just feels like an even truer expression of everything. It was as if Chaos Comics was like the practice, and like Coffin Comics is the real thing. And I don't mean to disrespect my legacy at Chaos, but kind of that's how I feel. I kind of feel like, you know, Chaos, man, or Coffin, we are really in the pocket. So thank you so much for that. And welcome back. I'm glad. I understand the feeling, my friend. I do. I mean, I went away for a while myself, you know, and I was kind of doing what life does. You know, you ever feel sometimes, you ever like go to the beach and the tide comes in, you get caught in a wave and you don't have any kind of control. Like, life felt like that for a little while for me, but then I started riding that wave all over again. And, you know, here I am back, your boy. So Dave, thank you for being back. You know, I'm itching to have one more question. So let's just do one more. That's how I'm feeling. Just finished my drink too. Good timing.
Yeah, well, yeah, Ron saying I need that hellwitch statue.
You do.
Of course. Oh, from Dennis.
Dennis
Birch. I'd love to see a story involving Devilock and Mad Mike together.
Oh, dang. That would be fun. That's, you know, it's interesting. I haven't really considered that. You guys are going to get Sacrificial Annihilation soon, and the two guys are in the story, but they don't really interact. So it would be cool to see those two clash maybe and then team up against a greater evil. You know, in my mind, all this stuff keeps playing, and, you know, I have to be in the future about it all. So I know Devilock's story and trajectory, and I know Mike's. And they're probably, the way their story works in their origin, they are probably within one state of each other at a certain point. I know that Mad Mike goes from New Jersey to Chicago, and that I know Devilock goes from the Midwest and comes pretty close. So I don't know. You never know. I don't know. So look, in conclusion, a couple of things. Definitely consider that hellwitch statue coming tomorrow. It's going to be offered for pre-sale. You got your main statue, and then you got your Coffin Collectibles risque variant, limited to 100 copies. These will be available for pre-sale up until now, until February 14th. I don't know how long it'll take to sell out the risque, so do it at your own risk. I'd also like to say we're still offering some cool stuff like the La Muerta Deluxe Edition and the Hellwitch action figure. And man, even as we speak, I just had some meetings this week about some of our future 3D, and it's like, whoa, hold your horses, because here it comes. So without further ado, what I'd like to say is thank you so much, everybody, for attending. This has been Beer with Brian, an event, an official event of the Coffin Comics Sworn Club. You've been great. I've been Brian. See you next month.